Johnny Depp became one of the major Hollywood stars in the 2000s. It was then that his most famous characters appeared, who are now adored and quoted by the audience. But it isn't as simple as it seems at first glance. After all, from that moment, Johnny's life entered a period which led him to a loss of success and problems in his personal life. Who is he? An altruist or a despot? A romantic or a womanizer? What role did ruin his career? Which actor's film was accused of excessive cruelty and lack of ethics? And what unusual object did Marilyn Manson give him as a sign of his friendship? Today on the Biographer channel, we continue to talk about the actor's career's ups and downs. Let's figure out what roles played on his addictions and his women in his life. But first, click on the subscription button and the bell to find out the secret facts from the biographies of your favorite celebrities. Subscribe, sit back, and we start. By the early 2000s, Johnny had appeared in more than 30 films. At the same time, it was not so much the commercial success of the movie as personal interest in the idea and plot was important for the actor. That also explained the choice of several rather non-standard images for roles.
I'll put anything on. Obviously.
And basically, it referred to independent projects, which caused the indignation of major studios and even the agents of the actor. Many people wanted to work with Johnny, but Johnny did not want to work with everybody. I'm sure it would have made their job a whole lot easier had I done some of the things that were proposed to me over the years. But soon the situation changed. It was all because of the legendary image of Jack Sparrow in the project from the Disney studio, which our character was invited to act in. Although he still had to compete to get the role. Christopher Walken and Michael Keaton were among the contenders. They didn't have high expectations for the film. That was due to the fact that the idea was borrowed from a theme attraction of the same name, which was located in Disney World. It didn't have great potential, you know. In addition, pirate-themed films had lack of success. Cutthroat Island, released in 1995, failed at the box office. It was Johnny who turned the film into a cult one, transforming the once minor role of Jack into a central one. After reviewing the character, he made significant revisions that the studio initially did not like. And he did it until the image of Jack satisfied him. If before Jack Sparrow looked like an ordinary pirate with a bandana on his head and an earring, then in the end, Johnny turned out to be kind of a rock star. The actor said that it was due to the fact that he identifies pirates with rock stars of the 20th century. They were united by a sense of adventure and freedom. Who inspired the actor? He borrowed a considerable part of the habits and elements of the image from Rolling Stones guitarist Keith Richards, as well as from one cartoon character.
There was that, and then there was a cartoon character that I loved very much as a kid named Pepe Le Pew, who was a skunk who basically had blinders on and only saw his own reality. You know, could never see the horrors around him and didn't care, you know. So there was that, and then I don't know, I always saw this guy as like this organism, you know, this constantly changing, moving organism that would change shape to fit a situation in order to benefit himself. You know.
Moreover, he came up with a story of each bead and dreadlocks, which complemented the character. They were a symbol of the pirate's vivid and important memories. As a result, everyone's favorite captain turned out to be eccentric and cunning. The screenwriters, according to the actor, were shocked by the image of the captain. They just couldn't stand him. I think it was Michael Eisner, the head of Disney at the time, who was quoted as saying, "He's ruining the movie." His guess wasn't not so far from the truth. The Disney bosses asked, "What's wrong with him? Is he, you know, like some kind of weird simpleton? Is he drunk? By the way, is he gay?" Johnny gave a brilliant answer. He said that all his characters were gay. Didn't they know about it? That puzzled them so much. Dissatisfaction with the image of the part of the Disney management resulted in several discussions between the parties. The studio tried to influence Johnny and force him to change the image of the character to the original one, but the actor argued that the pressure would cause his departure from the film. Moreover, he defiantly made part of the teeth gold after visiting the dentist. "I told them, look, You don't like what I'm doing? Fire me. You hired me to do a job and play the character, and this is what I want to do. This is the work. I mean, hadn't they seen any of the work I'd done previously? You might want to take a look at that before you hire a motherfucker, you know? Disney gave up. They couldn't afford to lose such an actor. By the way, during the filming, Johnny wore special contact lenses that protected his eyes from the sun and also really controlled the ship. There were a lot of improvisations. In addition to ad-libbing the popular Savvy, Johnny Depp also improvised the line, "Bring me that horizon," which he uttered towards the end of the film. In 2003, the release of the first part of the future franchise, Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl, was such a success that there were no arguments about the image anymore. Captain Jack Sparrow cost the studio $10 million. Another $40 million was spent on advertising. But the costs were fully recouped, according to the total box office receipts of $564 million. The film was 22nd of the most profitable movies in the history of the United States. All the children were playing Jack Sparrow. The theme music from the film, written by Hans Zimmer, became the most popular ringtone. Write in the comments, did you use a melody from Pirates for your ringtone? The phrases of the main pirate became famous quotes. In 2004, the film received 5 Oscar nominations, including for Best Actor and a Golden Globe Award nomination for Best Actor. You probably already guessed that Johnny Depp was nominated for both of them. The actor's interpretation of the Disney pirate received positive critics' reviews. Later, in an interview, Johnny admitted that he did not expect such a great fame that came after the Pirates. I was freaked out by it. I mean, at the beginning, I generally didn't give a fuck about acting, but I began to enjoy it. I enjoyed creating those characters up there, being in the trenches and sparring with collaborators, actors, directors. On the other hand, the great polarity of the hero among children and youth gave Johnny the opportunity to use it for good. The star often came to children's clinics to visit sick children, delighting and supporting them in their difficult situation.
I believe that I mean, that's so sweet that you do that, and you do that a lot. You do that often.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I can, you know,
Yeah.
wherever I go, I bring Captain Jack in a box. But yeah, you meet all these amazing kids who are dealing with very, very adult illnesses, and you see this incredible courage, you know, in their faces.
Initially, the Disney management had self-interest and, to some extent, excitement, but after the success of Black Pearl, they immediately wanted more. The popularity of the film led Disney to a very dubious idea: to release 2 parts of the sequel at once. At the same time, there was neither a plot nor a script.
When you did the first one, did you think there would even be a second one?
I didn't think I'd make it past 3 weeks.
Really?
Yeah, no, I was right on the way out of the Disney premises.
In 2006, the second part of the franchise, Dead Man's Chest, was released. It had more than $1 billion at the box office, and a year later, the third and final part, At World's End, was released. Anyway, that was originally the plan. In an interview, the director of the first 3 movies, Gore Verbinski, said that the production of the second and third parts was very difficult. Films were choosing the release dates, but they didn't have the first frame shot. Therefore, time was very limited and everything was done hastily. We shot the end of Pirates 3 5 days into shooting Pirates 2, because we were leaving that location. And there's one scene that had to be shot for the very end of Pirates 3 5 days into shooting 2. Not knowing what the script of Pirates 3 was yet. Johnny told afterwards. In addition, from the very beginning, they were plagued with failures. We got hit by a hurricane, half the set got wiped out, our tank didn't work, we had to pull stuff back to LA. It was pure survival mode by the time we got to the third one. Verbinski only had 10 weeks on the Pirates of the Caribbean At World's End post-production. By the way, some studios spent up to a year on post-production, especially on serious projects. That also affected the quality. The third part of the franchise was received with more restraint than the previous 2. Viewers complained about the slow development of the plot. Despite that, all the first 3 parts of Pirates are funny and easy to watch, and the film has good visual effects that look good even now.
40 Charlie 1. Parker.
Gore Verbinski understood that the story was exhausted, and the screenwriters agreed with him, which was confirmed by the ending of the third part. the director announced that he put an end to that story. "Myths must die," he once said. But Disney didn't want to lose the cash cow. Moreover, Johnny happily agreed to shoot even before the script was written. He fell so much in love with the character. The quality of the script had decreased since the fourth film, Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides, which was released in 2011. The fourth part, under the direction of Rob Marshall, was supposed to be a relaunch of the franchise, but the updated and too complicated story began to annoy the viewer. Depp's character became boring, especially since Jack Sparrow began to gradually lose his positive image, turning into an anarchism. In addition, the era changed, the viewer changed. It was a time when serious matters and liveliness, realism, and inner conflict of the character became popular. Along with such films, Jack began to seem trivial and comical. The fifth part of the franchise, Dead Men Tell No Tales, which was released in 2015, showed that the story was completely outdated. Even the guest starring of Javier Bardem, who played the antagonist, did not help, and Johnny Depp's talent also didn't help. All that coincided with the actor's career crisis, which we will look at a bit later. But let's go back to the beginning of the 2000s. In the intervals between Yo Ho Ho and a Bottle of Rum, Johnny successfully starred in other films. In 2003, two more films with the actor's participation were released: Once Upon a Time in Mexico and Charlie, The Life and Art of Charles Chaplin. Both films received generally positive reviews. The actor's performance was called graceful and relaxed, giving an average rating of 4 points. The following year, one of Depp's most significant films was Secret Window, released under David Koepp's direction. It was the film based on Stephen King's novel Secret Window, Secret Garden, which had already given it a chance to succeed. Johnny played the role of a lonely writer, Mort Rainey, whose adequacy was made a question with the development of the plot. An unusual role, an actor's talent, and a good story did not make the film a masterpiece. The movie received average from critics. Roger Ebert, the famous American film critic, rated it 3 out of 5, arguing that could add up to a straight-faced thriller about things that go boo in the night. But Johnny Depp and director David Koepp have too much style to let that happen. On Rotten Tomatoes, Secret Window has an approval rating of 46% based on 162 reviews. Depp is quirkily entertaining, but the movie runs out of steam by the end. At the same time, two more films with Depp's participation were released. They were a French comedy, And They Lived Happily Ever After, where Johnny played a cameo role, and biographical drama Finding Neverland, directed by Mark Forster, about the creator of the famous Peter Pan story. The touching acting of the actor with Kate Winslet could barely leave anyone indifferent. There was a Scottish accent and attention to detail. Depp was drawn to the role of Barry because he could identify with the author's insistence on staying in touch with his childlike imagination. Even if the film didn't fit the real story in everything. For example, the husband of Sylvia, Winslet's character, died much later than it was shown in the film. We believed and empathized with the heroes. 2005 was marked by the release of two iconic films from the actor's work: Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, directed by Tim Burton, and the voice acting of the main character of the cartoon Corpse Bride. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory turned out to be a very specific movie, like all products of Tim Burton's creativity. Fantasy, based on the novel of the same name by Roald Dahl, was modernized and filmed with Burton's usual individuality as well as psychedelic manner. The constant friend and hero of his plots, Johnny Depp, got an equally specific role. He played the eccentric and multifaceted manufacturer and misanthrope Willy Wonka, who arranged an excursion for the children. Film producer Felicity Dahl recalled, "I think there was a queue of actors wanting to play Wonka, so when we heard that Johnny Depp was wanting to play him, we were very excited. The three musketeers of Dahl, Depp, and Burton. You can't beat that." Burton and Depp created their own image of Wonka, which was radically different from the original. But at the same time, it was that interpretation that made him so colorful and, to some extent, tragic. The director and Johnny tried to convey the message of the book as accurately as possible, to follow the idea that Roald Dahl tried to get the message across.
We were working so closely with what Roald Dahl had written in the book. We really were faithful to that. And I felt a kind of a deep sense of responsibility to Dahl, to Roald Dahl, and his intent, so that was very important to me.
During that period, Johnny, in addition to acting talent and skills, became famous for two more things. The first was his alleged anti-American statements against the United States, which he reportedly said in an interview with the German magazine Stern. "America is dumb. It's like a dumb puppy that has big teeth that can bite and hurt you, aggressive. I'd like them to see America as a toy, a broken toy. Investigate it a little, check it out. Get this feeling and then get out." The actor officially protested those words, saying that the phrases were taken out of context. He said that he was an American and loved his country, even if it meant sometimes to be critical of reality. In addition, Depp began to appear more and more often on the covers of glossy magazines, gradually changing the image of a bad boy and a teenage heartthrob. It was replaced by the mature status of Hollywood's It Man, man of the hour, and sexiest pirate ever. For the first time, the actor appeared in the list of Forbes magazine as one of the highest-paid actors. In 2007, another joint effort from Tim Burton and Johnny Depp's creative product was released. It was a collaboration with an unusual and bright actress. Have you already guessed it? That's right, Helena Bonham Carter in the musical drama thriller Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. Before that, the Gothic trio had already worked together on Charlie and the Chocolate Factory as well as the cartoon Corpse Bride. But starting with Sweeney Todd, they became such Ocean's 2 only Burtons. Of course, Johnny played the role of the very demon barber who was avenging the bride and a broken life. Helena was the nutty Mrs. Lovett, who was in love with Sweeney. Later in an interview, Tim would tell, "All my drawings look the same, but I looked back at it later and I realized it was Johnny and it was her. It shocked me." Johnny is the only member of the cast who was selected on the basis of good faith, because he said that he could sing well. All the others had to participate in the preliminary auditions. The producers said that they did not hear Depp singing even when the scenery, costumes, and music were prepared for the film. Fortunately, the actor met their expectations.
The singing, was a real challenge. I mean, there was a real opportunity to fall flat on your face.
The film won the Hollywood Foreign Press Association Award as Best Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy, and Depp won the prize as Best Actor, Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy. In addition, he became the winner of the Academy Award for the Best Work of a Production Designer. Reviews of the musical were mixed. On the one hand, the film was praised for the impressive interpretation of the musical, the colorful images in all their diversity, the tragedy and bleakness of the movie. On the other hand, the film was accused of excessive cruelty and lack of ethics. Do you like the movie? Write in the comments your impressions of Sweeney Todd, and we go on. The friendship story of Hunter Thompson and Johnny Depp, if you don't remember, you can click here, resulted in the actor's participation in a documentary film. There, he talked about his memories of the famous American journalist and provocateur, and also read Thompson's voiceover text. The film was released in 2008 and was nominated for the Grand Jury Prize in the documentary genre at the Sundance Film Festival, and for the Best Documentary Screenplay at the Writers Guild of America Awards in 2009. Johnny's next role was unusual but tragic. In the fantasy film The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, directed by Terry Gilliam, he portrayed Tony Shepard, who was previously played by Heath Ledger. The role of Tony was the last in the life of the Australian actor. Since Heath died before the filming was completed, Johnny Depp, Colin Farrell, and Jude Law played the main character for him. The format of the story allowed the producers to save everything that Heath did, as well as to continue working. By the way, all three refused royalties for work in favor of Heath Ledger's only daughter, Matilda. Being part of this film was never about filling Heath's shoes as much as seeing them across the finish line. How I wish he had brought the film to its completion himself, but there was also a sense of dogged insistence. Insistence that Heath's last piece of work should not be kept in the shadow of the light of day. The film received 2 Oscar nominations, 2 for the Saturn Award and 2 for the British Academy Award. As for the reviews, the problems with the movie at the box office took their toll. By the time the film was released in 2009, it received quite restrained reviews. Critics rated the film 6 out of 10, approximately the same level as was given to the film on main movie websites. But at the same time, Johnny worked on another film, Public Enemies, directed by Michael Mann. The main character of the film was John Dillinger, the legendary robber of the first half of the 1930s in the USA. Public Enemy number 1 according to the FBI classification, and just a cutie. Therefore, the movie took place at the time of a great crime wave of the Great Depression period. Despite some separations from the real story, the main facts of Public Enemies were based on real events. So the film was shot on the site of some of Dillinger's feats. The death scene of the main character was played on the place of the real death of the prototype. The efforts were not in vain. The film got 9 Oscar nominations and 2 wins. The film paid off the amount more than twice with $100 million spent. It received $214 million at the box office. In addition to acting, as well as the role of father and husband, Johnny didn't forget about the old youthful dream, music. He did singles for some of his films, Chocolat, Once Upon a Time in Mexico. They would be followed in the future by The Rum Diaries and The Lone Ranger. In 2000, Johnny recorded 2 songs for an album called Bliss by his de facto wife Vanessa Paradis. In 2011, he would accompany his guitar with her 3rd album, together with the duo Serge Gainsbourg. Around the same time, he played guitar on Baby Bird's 2010 single Unlovable, to which he also directed the music video, rejoining the band in 2011 to record the Jesus Stag nightclub. In the same 2010, the audience was able to enjoy 2 wonderful works by Johnny. The first of them was Alice in Wonderland by Tim Burton. Depp got one of the key and at the same time eccentric roles. Namely, he got the role of the Mad Hatter. He coped perfectly with it. Do you agree with me? The actor recalled his image with irony. Early calls and you sit in a chair and people start painting this kind of grease paint on your face, and suddenly you start to disappear. And then you're attacked by a giant orange ferret. Then they attach it to your head. Then you're wrapped in magnificent 19th century surrealist costumes. Hat goes on, you're ready to go. The image of the Hatter performed by Johnny turned out to be so colorful and charismatic that it stole focus from the acting of the main character, performed by the aspiring actress Mia Wasikowska. By the way, Alice in Wonderland was Burton's first film which he shot mainly using green screen. It turned out that the new experience was naturally accompanied by the challenges. He later recalled, "Alice was an experiment. We didn't know what the movie was until the very end. It was exciting and scary. Working on the CG just got more and more intense. The intensity peaked when we had to stop." The audience received the film positively, which clearly affected the box office. It received $1.6 billion, becoming the highest-grossing Tim Burton film. The main comments were positive despite the fact that reviewers criticized the inconsistency of the plot regarding the book. The director's aspirations to use the computer graphics as well as humor and expressiveness of the movie were highly appreciated, and he did succeed. The image of the Mad Hatter became one of the most beloved in Depp's career for many people. Which of his characters do you like the most? Write about it in the comments, and let's see which of Johnny's roles is the most popular. Alice in Wonderland received 3 Oscar nominations, winning 2 of them, Best Art Direction and Best Costume Design, as well as the nominations of the British Academy Film Awards, the Golden Globe, the annual Grammy Awards, and many others. Johnny was nominated 3 times for his role, but unfortunately did not win any of them. In the next film, directed by Florian Henkel von Donnersmarck, called The Tourist, Depp was able to play in tandem with the erotic dream of many men in the world, Angelina Jolie. Surprisingly, Johnny and Angelina had never worked together before, although both had an impressive career. The movie was filmed in a short time, for 11 months in Paris and Venice. That's because Captain Jack Sparrow was preparing for the next shooting of the new Pirates. Angelina said that she agreed to star for 2 reasons. That was a short filming period and a cozy, colorful place where her family could relax as a vacation. But despite that, she fondly remembered shooting with Depp. He's just such a nice guy. He's so funny and so fun to hang out with. He's just that friend you're so happy to come to work and do scenes with. Plus, he's such a brilliant actor. He's often thought of so much for his deep character work, but it really comes from an artist who is willing to try things. Although there were some incidents. The actress made Captain Jack Sparrow first rinse his mouth with breath freshener and offered mint candy before the scene of the kissing. That was explained by the fact that Johnny smoked a lot and she couldn't stand the smell of tobacco. The result of the joint work turned out to be controversial. Perhaps the hurry during filming and in post-production played a big role. Despite the fact that the film earned back the budget more than twice, viewers rated the picture 3 out of 10 on various movie sites. They complained about the confusing, drawn-out plot and the lack of chemistry between the actors. From that moment on, Johnny's career was slowly but surely moving to the brink. More and more films with his participation gave an average rating after their release. There was a feeling that the actor was exhausted for some reason and the films were not good enough. But not all of them. In 2011, Gore Verbinski, the same director of the first 3 Pirates of the Caribbean, presented the cartoon Rango. There, Johnny voiced the main character, a domestic chameleon who accidentally got into the desert and had to survive in it. All the movements and facial expressions of the main character were originally played by Johnny, because motion capture technology was used in the production. The cartoon received a lot of positive reviews, both from viewers and critics. In addition, the cartoon got the cherished Oscar in the nomination for Best Animated Feature Film, which spoke for itself, didn't it? But the Rum Diary was controversial. That was not only because of the result of his story. You probably know as well as we do the filming affected Johnny's personal life, but it was also about the final product of cinema. As you probably remember from our first video, the Rum Diary appeared largely thanks to the friendship of Johnny Depp and Hunter Thompson. The second was the author of the autobiographical novel of the same name, which was released 52 years after its creation. The novel was based on a period of Thompson's life when he was an unknown young correspondent. Since 2000, several companies have tried to make the film, but the work was stopped. And only when Depp's company financed the filming, the production of the picture started. In addition to money, Johnny also offered himself as the main character of the movie. It was a journalist tired of life who gave up his career in New York and moved to live in a small tourist town in Puerto Rico's San Juan. There he was waiting for adventures, rum, and the quest for truth. Thus, the actor wanted to honor the memory of a friend and colleague who did not live to see the film adaptation of his work. Initially, my idea was to not play any of the characters. I didn't want to play anything in the film. It was Bruce that talked me into playing Kemp. Later in an interview, director Bruce Robinson would say that he wasn't going to return to Hollywood. It was Johnny who persuaded him to take the project, again backing up his arguments with wine and a rent-free island for the director to work on the script and inspire him with the Puerto Rican atmosphere. Johnny's colleagues on the set were Aaron Eckhart, Richard Jenkins, and Amber Heard, whose acquaintance radically changed the actor's life. During the filming, a romance started between Johnny and Amber, which finally destroyed the relationship with his wife, Vanessa Paradis. He lived with her for 14 years. They were not officially married, as according to the actor. Never found myself needing that piece of paper. Marriage is really from soul to soul, heart to heart. You don't need somebody to say, okay, you're married. 2 common children, Lily Rose and Jack, and an ideal family could not save the marriage. Although Johnny's friends claim that with the birth of his daughter, Depp kicked alcohol, drugs, and an idle life, completely devoting himself to the family. But it couldn't be said that Amber was the only reason for their quarrel. A few years before the Rum Diary, there was a discord in the couple. The romance of the Southern Evenings, which accompanied the lovers Johnny and Vanessa after the meeting, in reality turned out to be the actors' residence on different continents. Despite joint vacations, periodic visits of both sides to each other, the families spent most of the time apart. Family tensions rose while Depp's popularity grew. In one of his interviews, Johnny said about it, "Relationships are very difficult, especially in the racket that I'm in because you're constantly away or they're away and it's so hard. It wasn't easy on her. It wasn't easy on me. It wasn't easy on the kids." Johnny often started going to filming after the success of the first Pirates. At that time, Vanessa stayed in Los Angeles with her 2 children or left back to her home. A few years before the breakup, the actor began to be increasingly noticed drinking and having fun in bars with girls. The source said that in those days, he was often seen spending time on his yacht in the Caribbean in the company of young ladies and guys. In 2010, during the filming of the Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides, he was always noticed in local bars. He would chat with girls and was very friendly and flirty, says a source. After Paradise and the kids arrived later that summer, Depp was seen spending low-key time with his family at his rental home. A year before the breakup, the couple stopped appearing together on the red carpet. Since November of 2011, the couple attended events together but stayed in different hotels, and they were never noticed together somewhere other than the promenade. At the premiere of the film The Rum Diary, Depp appeared without his wife. She went to the concerts that day, and the next day, Paradise appeared at the event with Karl Lagerfeld from Chanel without Depp. She officially announced their peaceful separation after the actor's solo performance at the Golden Globes. The trajectory of that relationship: you play it out until it goes. One thing leads to another. So for whatever reason that ceases, it doesn't stop the fact that you care for that person, and they're the mother of your kids. Johnny recalled about their relationship. The actor was able to numb personal worries in the company of a friend and in working on a new joint project, Dark Shadows by Tim Burton, which was released in 2012. The dark comedy was adapted from the television series of the same name, which was popular in the late 60s of the 20th century. Depp and Burton, being fans of the old series, tried to capture the atmosphere of the show and the soap opera into the film, while adapting it to new realities. The role did not give anything new to the actor. There was the same slightly eccentric image with a touch of gothic of a vampire, Barnabas Collins, who was cursed by an evil witch. Helena Bonham Carter also did not change the image too much in the new film. The character also had the same shocking and gloating, although she was really beautiful in that one. According to Johnny, the role of a vampire still had a number of difficulties. In every film that I've been lucky enough to do with Tim, there's always some form of torture. The nails were Tim's idea. They were the length of the fingers, but it was okay because I had a troupe of people who would help me go to the bathroom. They had to have treatment afterwards, but they're okay now. That is true. The film received mixed ratings from the audience. On the website Rotten Tomatoes, positive reviews were only 37%, and the average rating was 5 out of 10. The main complaints were in the superficiality and poor development of the film. The next film, with Depp's participation, The Lone Ranger, released in 2013, was no less mixed. Gore Verbinski's superhero western went through production hell and budget problems. Eventually, even Johnny's playing the role of the crazy Indian Tonto in a duet with Armie Hammer, who played the Lone Ranger, did not save the situation. Perhaps the fact was that the image of a colorful madman in the role of Johnny got pretty boring to the viewer. Or the fact that Verbinski periodically added pirate jokes and tricks into the film. Like, for example, Depp triumphantly standing on top of a vehicle in big trouble. But The Lone Ranger received negative reviews from most of the American film press and critics. It was also nominated in 5 categories of the Golden Raspberry Anti Award. Johnny's character did not avoid the nomination. That fact really surprised the film crew and the actor himself, who was proud of his role in the movie.
The high points of my life, one of the prouder moments of my life, to have been not only accepted, welcomed, but adopted into the Comanche Nation.
And also believed that most of the negative reviews were written before the release of the picture. The audience received the film less categorically, although with reticence. On IMDb, the ratings of the picture was 6.5 points out of 10. Everyone was very surprised by the dead bird on Johnny's head. Whatever it was, from that moment, films with Depp's participation began to be received with more restraint and coolness. Besides, the movies that followed in the next few years were not brilliant. In 2014, he took part in the Disney film Into the Woods, playing the role of a wolf. In the same year, Jack Paglen's science fiction film Transcendence was released. It was negatively rated by both critics and the public. It was quite sad to remember the actor's participation in the dilogy of director Kevin Smith's Tusk and Yoga Hosers. Those were low-budget horror films in which he got the role of an amateur detective, seemingly suffering from a chronic hangover. In 2015, David Kopp's Mordecai was released, which got Johnny 2 more nominations for Golden Raspberry in the position of Worst Actor and Worst Screen Combo, referring to their duet with Gwyneth Paltrow. After that, Johnny tried to play a serious role, gangster Whitey Bulger in the biographical drama Black Mass. The complete change from the eccentric and boring images played right into the actor's hands. A visual image in tandem with Benedict Cumberbatch turned out to be strong, and it overshadowed the raw script. The film received several nominations for Best Actor, and Depp was able to rehabilitate himself in the eyes of the audience. In parallel, Johnny did not leave a musical niche. In 2012, he played the guitar and drums in a cover of Marilyn Manson called You're So Vain. Later in the same year, they released the tracks The Beautiful People and Sweet Dreams on the Revolver Golden Gods Awards stage. In general, Manson and Depp were old friends with quite an interesting story. The performer supported Johnny back in the 90s, attending his film premieres. After the release of the movie Blow, Marilyn liked the wig of the main Depp character so much that he exchanged it for his prosthetic chest, which he wore for performances. "I did trade my breasts from Mechanical Animals for Johnny's wig from Blow," Manson said in an interview. In addition, the musician is the godfather of the actor's daughter. Once, Manson admitted that Depp gave him a whole house after the rocker expressed admiration for the actor's home. Friends even have the same tattoos. In an interview, the musician admitted that both of them have the phrase Charles Baudelaire, The Flowers of Evil, this giant skeleton thing, on their backs and the phrase No Reason on their wrists. In 2017, Depp took part in the filming of the clips Say 10 and Kill for Me. But the actor wanted to not only be a part of someone's creativity, but also to create his own. In 2015, he, together with Alice Cooper and Joe Perry, created a band called Hollywood Vampires, in which he was the guitarist. Already in September of the same year, they released their first album, which included 2 songs written by Johnny. In addition to participating in the music shows of A Shocking Friend, the actor took part in the performances of the Roxy Theater Group in Los Angeles and at the Rock in Rio Festival in Brazil. The actor's relationship with Amber Heard was developing rapidly. A whirlwind romance turned into a marriage in 2015. But already in 2016, the actress filed for divorce, arguing her decision with insoluble contradictions. After a while, Amber began to accuse her ex-husband of violence, accompanied by beatings. As evidence, she provided photos where bruises are visible on her. A scandal flared up. Johnny categorically denied her claims, saying that she was not the victim, but a criminal. The court finalized their divorce in January of 2017, and Heard received compensation in the amount of $7 million. She promised to give the money received from Depp to charity, commenting on her position that she had never been interested in money. Heated discussions of the actors' personal lives did not abate for years. In 2018, the British newspaper The Sun called the actor a wife-beater, for which Depp sued them for libel. The trial ended in 2020, and the verdict was not in favor of Johnny, but the actor did not give up. He filed a lawsuit against Heard after the release of her article for The Washington Post in 2018, where she talks about domestic violence. The claim was accompanied by a demand for compensation of $50 million. Depp's lawyers confidently said, "Mr. Depp never abused Ms. Heard. Her allegations against him were false when they were made in 2016. They were part of an elaborate hoax to generate positive publicity for Mrs. Heard and advance her career." In addition, in November of 2021, the court approved the requirement of Depp's expert team to gain access to Heard's phone records in order to prove the fabrication of her evidence. The ex-wife, Vanessa Paradis, did not believe the accusations and, moreover, stood up for Johnny Depp. "In all the years I have known Johnny, he has never been physically abusive with me, and this looks nothing like the man I lived with for 14 wonderful years," she commented on the situation. But despite the denials, the trial put a damper on the unstable actor's position in the movie industry. The final straw was the actor's trial with the former company that handled his finances. The image of the bad guy played against the actor. Articles about Depp's crisis began to appear in publications. They talked about excessive alcohol consumption, fights with Heard during their life together, and constant lateness to the set. The movie Alice Through the Looking Glass, where Depp played a role already familiar to everyone, did not add optimism. It was released in 2016, but despite all the efforts of the studio, it earned much less than expected. The last, fifth Pirates of the Caribbean also failed. There was a clear tendency in which Johnny was gradually stopped to be invited into the main roles or in major projects, but Johnny still holds his ground. In The Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, released in 2016, he only briefly appeared in the role of the evil wizard Grindelwald, Professor Dumbledore's opponent. That role fully showed itself in the second part of the saga, which delighted us in 2018. Despite the fears of fans about the image, the actor still managed to fit into the universe and well realized his character. It turned out to be so bright that it was difficult to give up so easily. No matter how hard the press tried to tarnish the actor, colleagues on the set of Fantastic Beasts spoke only positively about him during the interview.
It's really friendly, approachable. I mean, I know I was kind of geeked out to work with him, and I think he...
But amid the scandal with Amber Heard, Warner Brothers decided to fire Johnny from the franchise. The same situation also affected Pirates. Disney abandoned the idea of returning the performer of the role of Jack Sparrow to the franchise. That fact greatly upset many fans around the world. Admirers were threatening to boycott the new part of the franchise, clearly hinting that Margot Robbie did not fit into the plot in any way. In parallel, Johnny did not give up trying to come back. In 2018, the comedy drama The Professor by Wayne Roberts was released, where Depp got the main role. But even that film did not get success, rating 2 out of 10 among the world critics' reviews. Although there were also those who appreciated the actor's performance and the subtle British humor of the movie. The American biographical film City of Lies, starring Depp, also wasn't successful. According to the plot, the main character of the film, played by Depp, LAPD detective Russell Poole, had not been able to solve the murder of the rapper for 20 years. As a result, he enlisted the support of a journalist played by Forrest Whitaker, and together they tried to figure out the infantilism of the local police. Either the tragedy of the murder of Tupac Shakur back in 1996 was no longer so catchy to the audience, or it was affected to the change of the film's release date due to the court proceedings. Johnny was accused of beating one of the team members of the movie. But personally, we found out about the details of the film when we prepared the material for you. A certain shift in his career was Depp's participation in the film Minamata, directed by Andrew Levitas. The actor got the main dramatic role of the American photographer Smith, who was collecting evidence of the effects of mercury poisoning of the residents of Minamata, one of the cities of Japan. That time, intuition had not let Johnny down. He left the image of Jack Sparrow that everyone was bored with, returned to the world of big complex cinema, touched upon, among other things, the acute social issue of ecology that was currently relevant. The audience also approved of the actor's performance, and the general consensus read, "Sincere but confusing. Minamata pays an ambiguous tribute to an amazing story from real life, better reflected by documentary processing." For many, this film is the long-awaited return of Johnny, such as we love him, bright, textured, and versatile, able to transform into both a dirty Indian and a balding gangster, and someone who knows how to do it in such a way that you believe every word, every look until the last frame. A significant break in filming was finally finished. This year, the tabloids announced that Johnny's participation in a historical drama in the role of the scandalous King of France Louis XV. We hope that this will be a new start for Johnny Depp on the way to a brilliant career and no less brilliant life. And while we're waiting for new movies with Johnny's participation, you can click on this icon and watch a detailed analysis of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. What was the secret of the success of the first parts and why the last films turned out to be so unsuccessful? Click and watch. It's worth your attention. And that's all for today. It was Biographer with you. Thanks for watching. See you in the new videos. Bye-bye.
He's just gorgeous. Johnny Depp.